Everybody, welcome to another Great Lakes Divide live stream on YouTube. I'm your host, Adam Biggers. You can follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. You can follow Great Lakes Divide on Twitter and Facebook at GL Divide, same handle. And I want to thank our title sponsor, FederalWilliams.com. That's FEDERAU Williams.com. Focusing on the Lansing area, but Mike Williams is your statewide guy, Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids area, north to Traverse City and Gaylord. Contact Mike Williams for all of your realty needs. Again, that's FederalWilliams.com, the title sponsor of the Great Lakes Divide live stream. Want to get into Michigan-Nebraska preview? We'll take your score predictions. And there's a lot more to talk about in Nebraska, I think, that's been covered. And I want to get into that a little bit. And then, obviously, the Friday thing with the score predictions. And then your questions as well. So give me one moment here. I'm going to tweet the live links. And we will get the Justin Green says, Adam. Hey, Justin. Nyan20 says, what's up, Adam? Hi, Nyan. How you doing? Going to tweet this really quick and we'll get into it. It's kind of windy here. We have a storm coming, so hopefully the live stream doesn't get disconnected. We've got a bad habit of that. I think it happens all the time on Friday. It's been raining a lot here. I actually have to mow my lawn again. I just mowed it like 3 days ago. I was outside this morning getting the mail. It's like I got to mow it again. So I'm going to put this on our Facebook page. I see everybody. I'll get to everybody in 1 second. And again, follow us on Facebook. That's at Great Lakes Divide. At GL Divide on Twitter. We're merging our old Facebook pages. So the Facebook used to be at GL Divide. It's actually now at Great Lakes Divide. So sorry for the confusion here. All right. It actually, before we get in, I want to wish a very happy. I tweeted her and said it was happy 35th birthday. She corrected me. It's actually her 34th birthday. So happy birthday to a good friend and a fantastic writer and reporter, Angelique Shingelis of the Detroit News. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there follow her. So it is her birthday. It's her 34th. So go ahead and wish her happy birthday. I'll see her tomorrow as Michigan and Nebraska kicks off at noon, and I'll be sure to talk to her. But if you guys follow her, wish her a happy birthday. So Simple Carl says Michigan. Okay, you guys want to get into the predictions right now. Simple Carl says Michigan 21, Nebraska 10. Aaron Quinney says Biggs, what it do? Hey, Aaron. Justin Green says 42-10 Michigan. Base 77-69 says, what's up, Adam? Long time no see. Yeah, we kicked back the live streams up during camp and covering Michigan again. So it's thanks for joining. Lots of videos of player interviews. I'll have stuff tomorrow from post game with Jim Harbaugh, the selected players, and a reaction video. Gonna try. I haven't done one since Notre Dame. Gonna try to do one on the field. It's just been the past couple weeks. It's like the Western Michigan game was kind of draining. That one dragged on forever. The SMU game kind of draining as well. That was a long third quarter. So base 77-69 says, I've been keeping up with you. Oh, okay, good. Simple Carl says, is Higdon healthy? Last I knew, guys, and I can confirm this, Michigan says day-to-day, has been saying day-to-day all week. He hurt his ankle against Western Michigan. He decided that he wasn't going to go against SMU. I haven't heard any latest updates, but last I knew was the plan was for him to go Saturday against Nebraska. So I don't know if that's going to be another game time decision or if Michigan has already decided that internally, but from what I've been told, it's an ankle, not serious, and I think Karan's going to be good to go for Nebraska. I think Chris might be as well. It doesn't sound like it's real serious with Chris Evans either. Aaron Quinney says, sounds like Martinez is playing. He looked good in the opener until the injury. Yeah, right knee injury against Colorado. And guys, there's a lot more. Let's start with the score predictions, and then we'll get into, there's a lot more to Nebraska than just Adrian Martinez and Andrew Bunch, which quarterback's going to play. There's a lot more, especially to the offense. Nebraska's got a decent defensive line too, so I want to go over some stats, give you guys some players to watch and that sort of thing. So definitely want to cover that. Ben Peterson says, hey Adam, hey Ben, how you doing? So if you haven't already, if you're in here, let me have your score predictions. I'm going to tweet it right now, and follow me on Twitter at Adam Biggers 81. If you want to get your score predictions. All right, tweeted that again. So back to the live chat. Aaron Quinney says 31-14. Yeah, but if you don't play, they don't have a chance. I don't know about that. And here's another question, guys. Last I knew, Michigan was favored by 17 points. That seems, to me, I don't know how they're coming up with these spreads. Ryan Schuling and I, we did 2 podcasts in the past 2 days. One for Michigan-Nebraska. We talk about that. A lot of discussion about Jim Harbaugh and the narrative, to the national narrative with him. But Ryan gets in depth. He's pretty good when it comes to analyzing what the spread's going to be, why the spread's going to be what it is, and how it can fluctuate throughout the week. So I'm going to drop that link in here right now, our podcast tab. And again, there's one for Michigan State, which I know that you guys are dying to listen to. It's good stuff with Ryan. But here's the link right now to our podcast page. You'll see it. It's the Lewerke, Rocky Lombardi. Michigan State's going with Rocky Lombardi as a punter. Rocky came in as a backup quarterback. If you guys remember the Little Giants player, that was Aaron Bates. Aaron Bates was a former high school quarterback. So I'm wondering what we're going to see in terms of trickeration with Michigan State at Indiana. I do think I do think Michigan State's got to be on watch for that one 100%. This is not going to Indiana. Indiana versus Michigan State, typically, at least the past few years, has been somewhat of a good game. Indiana gave Michigan a run as well. So going to Bloomington, I don't think is going to be an easy task for the Spartans. So Ryan explains that in the Michigan State podcast. And then he and I, again, we talk about the Jim Harbaugh narrative. We talk about this Tuesday conference call. I don't want to get into too much of that, but if you guys follow me enough or tweet with me or anything like that, then you know kind of what happened with that. So Aaron Quinney he says 31-14. Brian Phelps, hey Brian, 24-17 Michigan. Jan Steen von Squidmerstein says Nebraska 24, Michigan 27. The Michigan defense is not as good as the last 2 years. Mo Hurst is missed. Yeah, I agree. They miss Mo for sure. Base 77-69 says 24-7. I was going mine 24-13, guys. That was my prediction for the game and my preseason predictions. And if you guys want, we can go over those again. Just so and I'll drop that link in there as well. I don't know how I'm doing with predicting Shea's passing yard total and Nico Collins, but had to go out on a limb for some of it. But for the scores, I think that they've been pretty accurate so far. SMU scored a little bit more than I expected, but I have it 23-14 Michigan, not 24-13, sorry. 23-14 Michigan. 17-point spread. I do not expect Michigan to cover that. Justin Green says, changing my prediction, 87-0. He's going Rutgers style, plus a little bit more, plus 9 extra points. Kyle Rolfe said, Cam Clark says, hey Adam, hey Cam. Aaron Quinney says, Adam, any word why Jamarick Woods hasn't gotten any mop-up time? He looked good versus Notre Dame. Haven't seen him since. No, I haven't seen a lot of Jamarick. And another guy on offense, we saw Nick Eubanks was on the field for Donovan Peoples-Jones' 35-yard touchdown, but we haven't seen Nick targeted a lot. And I'm wondering if, his role is going to be more primary blocker. He's a good blocker. Sean McCune's a really good blocker. Right now, as it looks, Zach Gentry is going to be the top offensive threat tight end wise. But back to your question about Jamarick Woods, and we haven't seen a lot of Jalen Kelly Powell either. I mean, Michigan's got some depth in the secondary. With Kalik out for the first half, we're going to see Jordan Glasgow in there. Josh Ross and Devin Gill have played well. I mean, if you look at the linebacking core and the secondary, and a couple of those guys can kind of switch from safety and linebacker. I think Michigan's got some good depth, and they've played a lot of guys too. I mean, last my count was about 79 or 80 guys have seen the field this year. A lot of true freshmen too, and I want to compare. I think in 2016, what was it like? It was like 20 true freshmen. I'd have to go back and count something like that. So I mean, Harbaugh is definitely not afraid to put the new guys in early. But I don't know how much we're going to see of that in the Big Ten season. So I'm going off on a trail there anyway. Back to your original point, why haven't we seen a lot of Jamarick Woods? I don't know. I don't have any explanation for that. But if we don't see him in Nebraska, or if he's not at least brought up, that's a good point to bring up. So James Seward says Michigan 45, Nebraska 28. Greg Ryan says, how much did I miss? Greg, not a lot. We're 11 minutes in, man. Take your score prediction if you have it, and I want to talk. I have some stuff that I want to talk about for previewing Nebraska that a lot of people aren't talking about. It's like you just hear Adrian Martinez, and you hear a little bit about two linebackers, but there's a lot more guys on offense, and there's a couple more guys on defense as well. And there's one on offense who's a wide receiver and a return man that I think Michigan's going to have to pay attention to. So Cam Clark says, I'll be at the Big House Saturday. Fred scored some free tickets. That's a good friend. Nebraska. Cameron Clark adds, Nebraska sucks. We will score more than 24. He also says we have a good quarterback now. Confident we put up points against the weak defenses. It's a weak secondary, but that defensive line actually isn't that bad. Or the linebackers. It's a weak secondary. Ben Peterson says he's thinking 37-17 Michigan. So that'd cover. That's 20. How many of you guys think it's Michigan 17 plus? Like the Vegas line is saying right now, or 17.5. It's something like that. Last that I checked. If anybody's got the most up to date, and actually I'll look that up right now. $18-point favorite now, and the over-under is 50.5. So I'm going 24-13. And Vegas is seeing a little bit closer to what some of you are saying. So I don't know. 18-point favorite seems kind of a lot. Nebraska is I don't want to say desperate team, but it didn't get that. We've talked about this earlier in the week. The Huskers didn't get that stat patter against Akron because that was canceled due to weather. And I guess Akron, I've read further into it, I guess Akron's the one who actually canceled it, not Nebraska. So then play Colorado, and obviously that used to be a huge rivalry game back in the days of the Big Eight, blah, blah, blah. I explained all that. And they lose 33-28. Then you lose to Troy at home. I mean, I think Nebraska, if you want to use the term desperate, you can say it, but desperate can mean a couple different things. Is it desperate like, I don't know. I guess I look at different levels of desperation. I mean, every team wants to win, right? And, I mean, if you haven't won yet, of course you're going to be desperate for a win. But, I mean, this is on the road. This is at Michigan. It's Scott Frost. It's a big game, huge road game for them. It's conference opener. There's a ton of stuff that goes into this. So I think this is a lot bigger game than people are giving it credit. And I talk about that in the podcast. So check that out, guys. I dropped the link for our podcast tab in there. Talked a lot about that. So Eric Gross says, not me. I think we might be in a dogfight here. I think so too. And 24-13, I think, is dogfight type score. Greg Ryan says 38-21 Michigan. So that's Michigan by 17. Ben Peterson. You spoiled my stat on J.D. Spielman. He's the wide receiver and return guy. Ben's got the inside info, though. He says, J.D. Spielman, Minnesota guy, Eden Prairie product, fabulous ball player. He will keep the Michigan D on their toes. Absolutely. Let's get into this preview, guys. So far, tell me, guys, who have you heard of so far? You've heard of Taylor, or not, I was going to say Taylor Martinez. You've heard of Adrian Martinez. You've heard of the backup, Andrew Bunch, right? Who else have you heard of from Nebraska? Not a lot, and that's kind of my point. Not a lot of people are talking about anybody. I mean, okay, you've probably heard of Tyron Ferguson and Luke Gifford. Two pretty good linebackers. Freedom, okay. You guys, all right, some of you guys know. Yep. Chris Hawk says, Biggers, hey, Chris, how's it going? Freedom, and this dude's got a last name that I'm going to surely butcher, but I want to him up right now, and he's a defensive lineman. Freedom Akinmoladun. Akinmoladun. Freedom Akinmoladun. If anybody knows the correct pronunciation, please feel free to tell me, but that's my best try. You got to watch out for this dude. He's got 2.5 sacks. Nebraska has 10 sacks, 10 tackles for a loss, or 22 tackles for a loss, and total of 85 yards lost on that, and 10 sacks for 62-yard loss. DiCaprio, Nebraska's got some great names, okay? DiCaprio Boodle. Wrong column, anyway. That's just a good name right there. Khalil Davis has 2 tackles for 16-yard losses, a total of 16. He's got, and they're both of those were sacks. Luke Gifford's got 2.5 sacks. Tyron Ferguson has a sack. I mean, these guys are just all over the place. So, yeah, talk about Adrian Martinez. Yeah, he's a good player. Nebraska's defensive line, I think, deserves some credit. D-line and linebackers. That secondary obviously is weak, but the defensive line and linebackers does have both of those units have some playmakers on there. Chris Hawk saying 38-24 Michigan. Ora 82, sure, why not? Freedom. Yeah, Eric Gross says their D-line's pretty set. Exactly, guys. I feel like the whole conversation about Nebraska this whole week has just been quarterback, Adrian Martinez. There's so much more to this. Let's go to the offensive side of the ball, and we'll start with who Ben mentioned, and that is J.D. Spielman. And J.D., this dude, I'm gonna go over his stats. This dude's got 9 catches for 112 yards, 12.4 per catch, 2 touchdowns. He's rushed 2 times for 5 yards, not a big deal, but he's an offensive weapon, obviously at wide receiver. Stanley Morgan's another guy. 10 catches for 139 yards, 13.9 per catch, and a touchdown. But let me go back to my ADHD's kicking in right now. J.D. Spielman, 5 kick returns for 105 yards, averages 21 per attempt, and as long as 31. So, I mean, there's certainly a lot more than Adrian Martinez. You have a good quarterback. I mean, yeah, the numbers aren't there for Nebraska as a whole, but I mean, I do believe there are some guys on offense, and Stanley Morgan Jr. and J.D. Spielman at wide receiver. And I do want to mention, too, Nebraska's got a couple of decent running backs, and this Maurice Washington, he's probable. They weren't sure if he was even going to be eligible this year, and he is. He's played 2 games. Really highly ranked recruit. I know Tennessee was all over him. He's got 22 attempts for 144 yards, a net of 126 when you factor in the 18-yard loss, but 22 carries for 144 yards, 5.7 per carry. Greg Bell's got 27 attempts for 173 yards, 6.2 per carry. So, I mean, they have 2 running backs right now that are averaging, 6 yards per carry. I think there's a lot more than Adrian Martinez, and it hasn't really been thoroughly discussed. Kevin Lawrence says double that sack stat if Runyon plays. He's talking about the Nebraska. I mean, they're averaging, they have 10 sacks on the year, and they've played 2 games. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. Right? Am I doing my math right? Get to these defensive stats. Yeah, they have 10 sacks. They're averaging 5 sacks per game. So, Ora 82. Okay, M. Myers. Sorry, not trying to skip comments, guys. If I skip yours, let me know. I apologize. It's not on purpose. M. Myers says the front 7 is physical, plays physical ball. Good test for our backs and O-line. Ora 82 says watch the Colorado game and Nebraska blew up their weak O-line. We have to execute or shake or get hurt. Yeah, guys, this defensive line is not. It's not Nebraska. I know Michigan fans are confident for this one. And Vegas seems pretty confident, 18-point spread. And I know that A little bit has been touched down in the secondary, but I don't in linebackers. But the D line, Nebraska's D line, I don't think it's been talked about enough. And again, they do have some weapons on offense. And I mean, and if some of these guys, I'm looking at some of the stats, I don't see like the big plays that SMU had, but I mean, if one of these guys are able to break off a big play, and if it's a close game, I mean that could be the difference. Nebraska's averaging 23.5 per game, giving up 28.5 per game. So they're losing close games. I mean, what, it was 24-19 to Troy at home, and then 33-28 at Colorado. I mean, they're not getting blown out. James Seward said Michigan will be the toughest team Frost will face as a head coach. Auburn didn't care in the bowl game. Chad Hankins wants to know how many sacks is Nebraska giving up. That's a good question. Let me I don't know if I see that one. Sacks. They've given up 5 for 35 yards. So they've sacked the opposing quarterback 10 times. They've given up 5 through 2 games. That's not a good total either. Giving up 2.5 sacks per game, there's a good chance your quarterback might get nailed. I'm going to go to Twitter real quick. Again, follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81 if you're not already. And then you can follow Great Lakes Divide at GL Divide on Twitter, and then at Great Lakes Divide on Facebook. Be sure to like that page. Mark Reed says Nebraska hasn't played a defense even close to Michigan's. This passing game will only get better. This is a win, probably by 14 plus. Iron Cross says Martinez plays closer game than we think. I don't think it's going to be an 18-point game. I don't think Michigan runs away 2 touchdown plus. I think 24-13 is adequate, and I'm giving Michigan some defense, or giving Michigan's defense some credit here. Greg Ryan says, I don't think Nebraska's young team will be ready for the big house. And I mean, hey, if this isn't a big game for Michigan, Devin Bush, I saw on Michigan's Instagram and on, I think on Twitter too, but it was definitely on Instagram. It was just a, graphic. Aaron Bills, he does a really good job with all the graphic design stuff. And Devin Bush saying something to the effect of they need the big house rocking this Saturday. And I know it's a maze out, and people, it's been kind of, I've seen in like Facebook groups and stuff, people are talking about why isn't Michigan Stadium loud and intimidating. I've had that question. I mean, I think it's loud. I think it'd be intimidating for other teams too. So Michigan's going to need the home crowd advantage, obviously, but also I think defense maybe a little bit to prove. You gave up that 50-yard touchdown to James Prochet. You allowed SMU to score 20 points. I didn't see that happening. I thought it was going to be, like a 48-7 game. Iron Cross says he'll be at the golf course tailgating. Brian Phelps says whichever quarterback plays for Nebraska, the Michigan D will be licking their chops. Cameron Clark says Nebraska's very weak. They are soft. I don't know, Cameron, man. I don't think that's a fair assumption. Lost 2 close games. Yeah, they were at home. One was Detroit. But there's questions with the defense, like I just said, the secondary. But I think defensive line, they have decent defensive line, good defensive line, and a good linebacking core. And there are some weapons on offense. I mean, Michigan's going to face 2 running backs. I don't feel like Michigan's faced a real good running back. They faced a real good running attack, and that was Brandon Wimbush, Notre Dame quarterback. But I don't think Michigan, and Bellamy was pretty good running back from Western Michigan, but I don't think Michigan has really faced, a higher level running back. And they're going to get 2 of them, it seems, in Nebraska's Maurice Washington and Greg Bell. Cameron Clark says it doesn't seem loud because of the way it's built. It's in the ground, so sound sinks and muffles out. I think it's loud. And on top of that, I mean, you could feel the rumble in the press box, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, I've been in a lot of games. I'll say this. I mean, so far this season, it hasn't been that loud. And I mean, and people left early in the SMU game, a lot of the students. Same with the Western Michigan game. But I think the big house does get pretty loud. It can rumble a little bit, but yeah, with the way it's designed, and I love that about the way it's designed, sunk into the ground like that. But the way it is designed, yeah, will muffle or absorb some sound. So James Seward says, does Ambry Thomas have the same success on special teams as Troy did? I mean, it's hard to predict, right? I mean, if I say yes and Ambry does, then it's like, oh wow, man, you can see the future. Is he capable? Yeah, Ambry Thomas is capable for sure. But I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones is the punt returner, so we'll look for him on that. And as far as a kick return, I mean, we saw Ambry burn Notre Dame for 99 yards. If he can do that, I think that it's safe to say that he can do some damage on a kick return to any team. So maybe not 99 yards, but Greg Ryan says Michigan Stadium is built up and out. There's nothing to keep the sun inside, and that was the original intent when it was built. They saw in the future stacking. That's why it was built like a bowl or oval, whatever you want to call it. But I've talked to some people who know kind of like the history of Michigan Stadium and everything, and I mean it was built for expansion, and it still is. I mean the way that the pillars were set up and everything, they envisioned bigger crowd. Cameron Clark says, yeah, my uncle who's an architect told me that. He learned that while he's at Michigan. Yeah, they definitely, were looking toward the future. And I mean, if you see the original pictures of Michigan Stadium, it was still a decent sized stadium. And then you compare it to today, it's mind-boggling. Even in like the early 80s, look at a photo from like the early 80s compared to now. Wes Weber Jr. Hey, Wes, he says Michigan by 10 to 13 points. I'll say 42 to 30. Kyle Ralph says I'm from Syracuse and have been to the Carrier Dome many times. It's just as loud as the Big House with 60,000 fewer people. All about acoustical. Yeah, I bet the Carrier Dome gets super loud. I remember the Silver Dome was pretty loud. I went there for a couple Lions games when I was a kid. Silver Dome was really loud. Spartan Stadium actually gets pretty loud. I know a lot of you guys probably don't want to go there or haven't been there, but Spartan Stadium gets pretty loud. Notre Dame was loud, but it's kind of open, so I feel like it doesn't hold the sound in. It's not sunk into the ground like Michigan Stadium, but it's open. So, I don't know. I don't know if they were even considered. We've talked a lot about acoustics, the most about acoustics ever on this show. Anybody have any questions? Nebraska-related questions? Anything about Michigan? We could go over the injury report. I know Nate Schonley is still banged up. Aubrey Solomon's day-to-day. Haven't heard anything decisive on him. Lawrence Marshall still day-to-day. Luigi Villon out for the year. Who else? I mean, obviously Tariq Black. Maybe he returns later in the season, but no definitive timetable still for his return. Karan Higdon with the ankle. I expect that he'll play Saturday. Chris Evans, with a stretch or minor whatever it is. They didn't really specify. Just normal aches and pains. I don't know. He took one for the team this past Saturday. I'll say that. Chris definitely endured his share of contact. So, but he's good to go as far as I know. Any other injuries I'm not aware of, but those are the ones that I am aware of and can confirm. Greg Ryan says, I don't think Ambry will even attempt to return anytime soon. What? I mean, he's on the he and Brad Dawkins are back there for the kickoff return. I mean, he'll get at least one, right, against Nebraska, even if Michigan's defense is perfect and shuts him out. I mean, he's going to get the opening kickoff of either the first or the second half. All Ambry Thomas needs is one touch. That's all he needs. Wes Weber says, if you had to pick noon kickoff or night games, I'm going to go selfishly because night games, man, I love them. But, man, those are getting out of there at night, and people have been drinking all day, and the traffic, and then, the drive home and everything. I mean, let's say it's a 7:30, 8 o'clock kickoff. And it's a home game. I'm not home until, 3 o'clock in the morning. So I prefer noon kickoff. I don't know. I like football. I love night games. As a spectator, to watch a night game or whatever on TV, I love them. But I guess for me personally, covering it, give me a noon game, please. Angelica Campos says, "Good morning, guys." Hey, good morning, Angelica. Cam Clark says, "So is Hudson out the first half?" Yeah, and it'll be Jordan Glasgow. Ben Peterson says, "Adam, did you get to chat with Frost on the conference call this week?" I did not. I should have stayed on there, and then just after Harbaugh, I hung up for some stupid reason. I don't even know why. And then I've been thinking about it all week. Like, why didn't you stay on for Scott Frost? That wasn't a smart move. So, yeah, I apologize for that. I was only on the call, guys. If you heard like Nebraska reporters were like slammed by Jim Harbaugh and all this other stuff, I explained it on the podcast. So listen to that. It's on the podcast tab on GreatLakesDivide.squarespace.com. That's not true. I'm the one who asked. Because everybody's talking about the 97, 98. Nebraska and Michigan haven't played in 3 years, 4 years. This is Harbaugh's first time facing Nebraska. So at least 4 years. 14, I believe, was the last time. So it's Harbaugh's first time facing Nebraska. I figured just asking any Nebraska memories. So I asked him about the 86 Fiesta Bowl. He had 2 late rushing touchdowns, a 1 and a 2-yarder in the third quarter that helped Michigan win that game. It was 27-24, I believe, 27-23. 86 Fiesta Bowl against Tom Osborne coach Nebraska. And then he doesn't think about it. Okay, fair enough. Then the 97 question. I mean, everybody's talking about that. Michigan versus Nebraska. Scott Frost has brought it up. So, or has at least acknowledged it and answered the question. Yeah, 27-23 Iron Cross. Thank you. So I figured, hey, Jim, do you have any thoughts on it? I mean, former players are talking. It's a big deal. That was Michigan's national championship, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he wasn't talking about that either. So there was a Michigan blog that said that Harbaugh, Nebraska reporters were asking tacky and stupid questions and basically made it out that Harbaugh crapped on him. And he didn't. And actually, after I asked those questions, I said, "Thanks, Jim." And he said, "No problem, Adam." So the audio is on the Big Ten site, big10.org, the weekly coaches call. You can listen to those. They post them every week. And you can hear me ask those questions. But it wasn't Nebraska guys, so don't blame them. Anyway, Iron Cross says he was at the 86 Fiesta Bowl. That wasn't, where was that? Tempe, Arizona, I think? Row 2, 37-yard line. You had nice seats. Greg Ryan says, "Why is everyone so low on Michigan's D but high on Ohio State, so we allow less points and yards per game?" That's a good question. Wes Weber says, "Will Shea complete over 68% passes with over 275 yards against Nebraska?" 68. And I mean, this could be the difference between 1 or 2. I say he completes at least 65. Let's go with that. His season average is 70.8, but this Big Ten team. So I'll say he completes at least 65. And his season high was against wasn't against Notre Dame? Or no, it was against SMU, wasn't it? 237, yeah. And against Notre Dame, 227. So 227 against Notre Dame. He threw for 125 against Western. And he threw for a season high 237 against SMU. So does he go 275 plus? No, I'm going to say 65% and 215. How's that? Is that fair enough? Am I too high or too low? Iron Cross said, "Yeah, those were good seats." Yep. Brother's boss was a Nebraska alum. Yeah, those are the seats that the alumni will get for sure. Row 2, 37-yard line, man. You could not be any closer to the action. And Greg says, "I say Ambry won't attempt to rerun out of fear. Every kick since the touchdown has been a touchback when there's space to run. It was 18-3 at the half." And Iron Cross says Michigan was down. Yeah, Harbaugh. I mean, that was one of Harbaugh's greatest games. I mean, that's why I asked him about it. Yeah, it was a 32-year-old bowl, but whatever. It's Nebraska. Figure the time was right. That was one of Harbaugh's best games. He had 2 big-time rushing touchdowns, goal line situations that really helped solidify that. Let Michigan's defense kind of do its thing. But yeah, that's all right. Iron Cross, man, you remember this game vividly. Said Arnold Black punt in the third. Yeah, and that's what set up Harbaugh's first touchdown drive, right? or his first touchdown. Morris over the top. Yeah, Morris got stopped, right? And then Harbaugh went to his right. In the second one, he kind of rolled out a little bit and went to his left. Saw a gap between the defensive end and the linebacker. It looked like he was going to go outside of the linebacker, and then he kind of just stopped and then saw that gap between the linebacker and the defensive end and got in. And Morris got one. I'll have to watch the whole game. I've watched it a little bit. I'm forgetting the Jamie Morris touchdown. I'm remembering when Jamie Morris tried to go over the top, he got stopped at the goal line, and then that set up Harbaugh's first rushing touchdown. Ben Peterson says, Adam, comma, Ben, comma. We're going on 36 minutes, guys. I'm gonna try to keep it under 40. Going to Twitter one last time. And again, that's at Adam Biggers 81. If you have any questions, and you can follow me, I'll be in Ann Arbor tomorrow for Michigan versus Nebraska. Any final score predictions, guys? I'm going 24-13. I think that 18-point spread is way, way, way out of range. And if you want to know how and why these spreads are dictated, listen to our podcast. Ryan Schuling does an excellent job of why the spread earlier in the week. Maybe it's better if you're a betting person. I'm not, but better to bet in the week. Why Michigan doesn't cover the spread, because Michigan bettors, he says, are think with their heart. So go that. If you're a betting person and you bet on Michigan football, A, make sure you do it responsibly. B, make sure that you listen to Ryan Schuling's words of wisdom, because he's an expert when it comes to that. Ben says 38-10 Michigan. Iron Cross says 31-214. All right. No, I know. 31-14 Iron Cross says MIC book is in the building. Says 28-17 Michigan. Angelica Campos says 21-14 Michigan. I'm seeing that a little bit closer like that, like you are, Angelica. Ben says 38-10. David said Nebraska will be hungry. 21-14 Shea game-winning drive. Close game. So, yeah, you're seeing a close game. Iron Cross says Patterson gets 250 passing yards. I'm going 215 and 65%. Mr. Johnson, hello, Mr. Johnson, 31-13. I'm assuming in favor of Michigan. Sean DeBoer says, just getting in here. Yeah, hey, Sean. Yeah, we're going on 38 minutes now. I want to try to keep it less than 40. My prediction is Michigan 24-13. Or 23-14. I'm sorry. I mix up numbers sometimes. You guys know that. Anyway, yes. Week 4, September 22nd versus Nebraska. And this is on my preseason predictions. So this isn't just this week. Picked them before the season. Hopefully they stick. 23-14 Michigan. And I have Michigan obviously at 3-1 after tomorrow. So James Stewart says Shea gets 216 yards passing, 18 yards rushing. Mr. Johnson says Zach Gentry goes off. Sean DeBoer says I'm going to have to go 28-13 Michigan, I'm assuming, right? Ben says Nebraska's defense is going to get lit up. I mean, if it is, it's the secondary that gets lit up, guys. I don't know if this is going to be a game where Michigan runs all over again. A couple good linebackers will go over. Some guys to watch on defense and then offense, and then we're going to close the show, okay? So I can hear it getting windier, and I want to go remow my lawn because it doesn't, like, it looks like it was mowed. It was 3 days ago, but all this rain's got, it's getting some little outliers or whatever you want to call them, and they're bothering the hell out of me. So anyway, on defense, these are the guys. I think that Muhammad Berry's a defensive back. Tyron Ferguson, he's a linebacker. He's got a sack this year, and he's second on the team with 14 tackles. Luke Gifford, also 14 tackles. He's got 2.5 sacks. Freedom Akinmoladen. I feel like I'm not saying that right. Freedom Akinmoladen. Maybe that's how it is. He's got 3 tackles for a loss, 2.5 sacks this year. Again, Nebraska averaging 5 sacks per game. It's only played 2 games, though. It's giving up 2.5 sacks per game. So those are the guys I think that you got to watch out for on offense. And other than Adrian Martinez, a Huskers quarterback, wide receiver Stanley Morgan Jr., J.D. Spielman. J.D. is a return man as well. Excuse me. And running backs, Greg Bell and Maurice Washington. Both of those guys are Greg Bell 6.2, Maurice Washington 5.7 yards per carry. So both averaging 6 yards per carry through 2 games. I think you got to watch. If you're Michigan, you're going to be looking out for those guys too. So any final prediction or comment, and we're already past 40 minutes. James Seward said Michigan breaks 500 all-purpose yards. That'd be a season high. And then I'd have to look up how many times they've done that under Harbaugh. I know it's been a couple. I know that. Ben Peterson says, agree, Angelica scores, starts at zeros. We will have to execute. And going to Angelica's comment, says, we need to be careful. This game seems like a trap game to me. Those guys are hungry after 2 losses. They don't have anything to lose now. Completely agree with you, Angelica. Completely agree. James Seward says Michigan wants to redeem the white jerseys. 28-10, says Bruce McGraw. Cody Peischer says, what time are you heading down there? Me, Manny, Jules, and Morgan are leaving 7 a.m. Cody, I'll give you, call me later. I'm aiming to leave the house no later than 8 or about 8:30. So, I don't know, call me. Maybe I'll ride with you guys and we'll have the hookup on parking. Cody Peischer, everybody. Go Bulldogs. Go Bentley Bulldogs. Sean DeBoer, is Martinez playing? Yes. So as far as we know, and Karan and Chris Good. Yes, as far as I know, they'll both play. Again, Karan with the ankle injury against Western. It was a game time decision. Southern against SMU, and Chris Evans in that SMU game got banged up a little bit. I don't know what it is, a stretch or a strain or whatever. They didn't really say, but day to day. But I can confirm it was an ankle for Karan. Bruce McGraw says, you think Harbaugh remains stubborn and tries to establish the run early? And Bruce, I'll save this topic for another. I don't think it's Harbaugh being stubborn. I mean, their game plan works. I mean, and I talk a lot about this in the podcast too. So give that a listen, Bruce. I'm going to drop the podcast page link in here right now. I talked a lot about this yesterday. So I could sit in here and blab on for 10 more minutes and recycle what I said, or you can listen to that link that I just posted and you can hear it the first time around because it's better. So I'm going to end with Mr. Johnson and Mark Reed. Starting Mr. Johnson says, Nebraska will be playing to survive off quarterback scrambles. Michigan has to contain the quarterback scramble on 3rd downs. I agree. Iron Cross says hamstring cramp for Chris Evans. Where did you hear that, Iron Cross? I haven't heard that specifically. I had heard ankle for Karan. Mark Reed says this is Big Ten play. Doesn't matter what Nebraska did last week. Doesn't matter what they do next week. We're going to take their best shot. And it could be a dogfight or it could be a 2-touchdown win. I think that it's going to be a dogfight. And yeah, Bruce, definitely listen to that podcast, man. And Iron Cross says, by the way, for all those, Michigan's greatest defense was 1985. Yeah, we've heard some all-time talk lately. I think that 16 defense was pretty good. The defense was good last year. I mean, the defense is good this year, but the expectations are to reach that, Michigan's in this pocket of time right now where it could have an all-time defense. And I think 16 was a very good defense. 85, and then 85 must have been a great year for defenses. The Chicago Bears defense in 85. Ben says 2006 defense was the best. All right, guys. Hey, I appreciate your time. Again, I want to thank our title sponsor, FederalWilliams.com, for supporting the show for all of your realty needs. If it's in the Lansing area, eastern suburbs of Lansing, if it's in Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, contact Mike Williams at FederalWilliams.com. Tell him that Adam Biggers and Ryan Schuling sent you. He'll take great care of you. Follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. Follow Great Lakes Divide on Twitter at GL Divide. And on Facebook, now at Great Lakes Divide. And I think that's all the plug. GreatLakesDivide.squarespace.com is the website. If you guys need any other information, have any other questions, feel free to tweet me. But I'm going to go get out and mow this lawn. So thanks a lot for everybody watching today. I appreciate it. I'll have a game reaction tomorrow, hopefully from off the field or on the field, whatever. And if not, probably later in the day from my little home office. So everybody enjoy. Oh, James Stewart says, I hope the videos stay inverted. I don't know why they are. I'm tired of it. I've gotten used to it now. But last year they weren't. It wasn't mirrored like this, and I've gone through all the options, trying to, in settings and everything, I can't figure out why it's like this. But if I shoot Facebook Live, not with the camera reversed toward me, then I think it's regular. If I flip my phone around, I think it's regular, but then I can't see on the screen, but I can see on my laptop. So maybe let's try that next time. But then I got to flip it around and all this other stuff. So anyway, Brian Phelps says, I hope you run in Charles Woodson Saturday. James Stewart said it adds the real factor. Oh, that it's reversed. Okay, well, if it doesn't, if sitting in my little spare room, and I've made this joke before. Last time I was wearing like a dress shirt, and I was actually wearing basketball shorts. I mean, I'm not here to. I'm not gonna. I wore a white T-shirt the other time, and I was like, that's way too casual. This is really casual chat, right? I mean, I haven't even shaved. I'm not even kidding. I'm wearing sweatpants. All right, I'm not even joking. I'm wearing sweatpants with a dress shirt. I'm deceiving you guys. He says you don't need a headset like Chat Sports. Well, I guess there's a certain level of deception on both parts, but at least I'm not chroma keying myself in Schembeckler Hall. I actually go down there. But I'm not ashamed. I'm wearing sweatpants, guys. I didn't even button this bottom shirt. I'm sorry. But if I'm sitting down like this, don't I look like I'm kind of dressed? So anyway, guys, have a good Friday. Ben Peterson says this is professional journalism. It is professional at its highest quality. James Stewart said, can we call you down? If I leave the house, I'll put on jeans. That's about it. But hey, guys, it's been fun. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch me tomorrow. We'll talk about Michigan's performance against Nebraska. Enjoy the rest of your Friday.